Hi. So people ask me all the time, they go like, Rhoda, how did you move from dispensing medication to being a podcast host? Or from being a clinical pharmacist to being a YouTuber? Some people think I'm just attracted by the feeling of validation that comes with following social media trends and how everyone is becoming a content creator. Some people are worried that how can you go from um, doing regulatory submissions and pharmaceutical brand management and and go into YouTube. And on that YouTube, it's not as if uh, I'm talking about something pharmaceutical. I'm talking about pharmacy things. And because honestly, the answer is that I didn't pivot. I didn't pivot. To me, I arrived because everything I've done, every degree, every role, every job I had taken in the past, every country I had lived in or studied or gone for conferences, every painful season of my life, every valley of the shadow of death I've walked through, it was all quietly building towards what you see now or what you hear now on this platform. Although I couldn't see it while it was happening, I thought I was just maybe going through probably consequences of whatever decision I had made in life or consequences of my background or just life happening at that time. So today I'm going to take you through this very personal journey. And not the LinkedIn version, not the LinkedIn version at all, not the one you see on Instagram, the real one, my journey, the reason why I am sitting comfortably. I had to take on a comfortable position because it's going to be a long episode. I'm talking about myself. And I hope you like it because I know that somehow someone will find themselves in the stories that I'm going to be sharing about myself today. So, welcome to Rhoda 360. It's 360 degrees of inspiration, insight, and impact. My name is Rhoda Ilewabo. Some people know me as Rhoda Winners Akogu. Ilewabo became my name after I got married. I'm your host, and if you're new here, I'm glad that you found this space. And this is something like I said, I've arrived, and this is something I'll be doing for a while. So if you like my face, or if you like my voice, or if you like what I'm sharing, I beg you to follow me, subscribe, and share, and engage in the comment sections as it will help me to help my platform grow. Now, let's go to somewhere personal, somewhere I've, uh, it, somewhere that took me a while to find words for, right? Because I think before you let someone into your life, for instance, in your case, before you subscribe, before you come back week after week, you deserve to know who you're actually listening to or who you're actually watching, not the biographies, not the credentials, not my guest on the podcast. You deserve to know me, right? So today, I'm going to tell you about the journey that brought me here. I know I say it's on the pivot, but I'm going to talk about the pivot, the movement, the losses, the reinventions, the moment that I finally stopped trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for me. The moment that I decided to build my own. This is my story, and somewhere inside it, like I said before, I believe you'll find a piece of yours. And I believe you probably decide to begin to put yourself out there in a reasonable way, of course. So let me take you back to the beginning. I chose pharmacy. I chose pharmacy because I believed in the power of healing. Aside from choosing pharmacy because some of us couldn't get into medical school, I'd always had the flair for medicine, the flair for healing, the flair for wanting to help someone that was sick, because I grew up in a home where my parents were into the medical services. Right. So I grew up in a hospital environment. I'll see doctors, pharmacists, medical lab scientists, nurses, radiologists, physiotherapists, radiographers. Sorry. Right. So I knew that the power of healing, the power of using science to not just to cure, but to support someone that needed help, was something I always believed in. And I also believe that if science is applied carefully and with genuine care, especially under ethical conditions, that it could change lives, right? It could modify people's ways of living and, things like that. And I still believe that. I still hold that to high esteem. And it's something that never left me anyways. But what they don't tell you when you're studying pharmacy is that no matter the pharmacokinetics you memorize and drug interactions and clinical protocols and ethics and the economics of it all, healing is not just biomedical, right? So healing is not about getting the right molecule or the right plant in the case of pharmacognosy, right? Healing is not just getting the right dose. If I'll be permitted to say that, healing for me, is relational. It encompasses a lot of things: the psychological, the spiritual, the cultural, the social, the economical, the wider environment, the inner and outer environment of the person. It's about, whether the person holding the prescription feels seen by the person that wrote the prescription, and also feels seen by the person dispensing that prescription. And I learned that early. And that knowledge created a tension in me that I spent years trying to resolve. Because I grew up to think analytically as a child. And in pharmacy school, I was trained to think scientifically, right? But in all this, I felt something. I had the emotion of feeling, because I'm human and I've always felt everything. I've felt it when the prescription wasn't correct for the person. I've felt it when, the medication wouldn't sort out that person. I've felt it when the patient could not afford their medication. I have felt it when there was no cure for that sickness. So that combination, having the analytical mind plus a deep feeling heart, almost drove me crazy, right? I almost began to see it as a liability, because when you speak to people, they'll tell you, people that, especially healthcare professionals that actually had that deep feeling heart, we're not going to be rich. But then it took me long to understand that, yeah, it took me long to understand that it wasn't it wasn't a liability. It was a gift. However, I didn't know what to make of that gift. So for years, I tried to be one or the other, either the analytical, work with the analytical mind or work with the emotional part of it, or not the empathic. Yeah, that's what I've been looking for. Work with the empathic part of me, being the scientist who would think analytical, or the storyteller who would adopt or adapt whatever lesson I had seen or had learned from the environment, from people's lives, either being the professional or the human, the person. The truth is, I've always been both, right? And Broader 360 is what happened when I finally stopped apologizing for being both, for being the professional and the person, the scientist and the storyteller. Was it easy to stop apologizing for? No, it wasn't. Because I wasn't the person who would even share my thoughts verbally in the first place. I preferred writing because I was ashamed. I was ashamed of my accent. I grew up in core northern Nigeria, so I I I grew up with that accent. I was ashamed of my accent. I was ashamed of what people would say, especially the kind of people that I attracted then. I said then because I have got out a lot of relationships, and yeah, I digress. So I stopped apologizing for being mediocre, and my career took me across industries and across borders. Now, if you're someone like me who feels and who is also analytical, who understand the human aspect of health, then many systems would not fit. For me, the system did not fit. I wasn't unlucky with jobs or roles. It wasn't just about moving from one part of Nigeria to the other. It was a system, an interconnected system that did not fit my kind of person. So I went from clinical pharmacy to pharmaceutical brand management to warehousing and distribution to regulatory affairs. And for my master's, I studied European and US FDA frameworks, which was quite interesting. In fact, I thought after my master that I was just going to work in regulatory affairs. I kept navigating these complex systems, writing submissions, understanding policies of different countries, managing timelines that, affected whether a medicine could reach a patient or not. And I enjoyed it. I didn't just enjoy it, I was good at it. And I want to say that clearly because sometimes when people talk about pivoting, there's an implied narrative that you're leaving a space because you failed. No. Maybe you couldn't hack it, but that's why you're leaving. No, that's not my story. I was competent. I was thorough. You could see it in everything. You could see it in the faces of my colleagues who easily became jealous. You could see it in the faces of my supervisors and my managers who were proud that I was working in their teams. And because of that, I was trusted with work. I grew, easily in my jobs, in the roles I found myself. But here's what I noticed, and what I want every professional listening or watching this to hear. There's a difference between being good at something and being aligned with something. I was good with these roles, but I was not aligned. I was not aligned to my purpose. I was not aligned to that thing that would give me the support or that I needed. I missed the word there. The balance, that thing that will make me feel at home. I was not aligned with it. So I was performing at high level environments. I was finding myself with professors and in high level environments. But these environments did not always see the full dimension of who I was. So, yeah. And there's a particular kind of tiredness, a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from not being seen as who you are. It's not just about burnout from overworking. It's the burnout from underexpression. Because if you're not seen as who you are, then you're not able to really express who you are. Hope I'm making sense. So from leaving parts of yourselves in the car park every morning before you walk into the office or in the bus stop, having to jump from bike to buses to taxis, the day you can, you driving your own car. That under expression is something that kept bothering me because I couldn't do more. I knew I wanted to do more. I knew I should do more. I knew what to do. But because of that box, I couldn't really come out of that box to do more. If you've ever felt that, please just maybe put a like wherever you're watching from, or just comment, let me know. If you've ever felt like that you're bringing maybe 60% of yourself into the room because the room only has space for 60%, right? That room had maybe you're bringing 50% of yourself into the room because the room only had space for that 50%. No extra space for you to really express, for you to say, okay, I have an extra 20% to contribute to the room. That was me, right? And that was me for longer than I would like to admit. I'm sorry. That was me. So, so the story of me going for my master's and PhD, that's a story I would like to share when I'm talking about personal family movement, but this is professional and career-wise, so I'll just leave that story for another day. So when I decided to pursue a doctorate, I wanted to do something in the effectiveness and the safety of AI tools in pain management, right? So I was looking at pain management in my other masters. I was looking at regulations and regulatory requirements in my other master. So I was running, that's a big story. So I have 2 master's degree. So when I brought the two together, I knew what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was in digital health. However, AI was just evolving. Oh, they were just initiating AI then. That was late. I started applying for my doctorate, my PhD in sometime in 2022, and AI had not come. So I decided to go for looking at the effectiveness and safety of, digital health tools in pain management. And I wanted to look at something for older adults because they were a population that I wanted to study, being looking at all the dimensions of aging and everything that comes with medication management in aging. Now, people on the outside saw it as an academic decision. Yeah. I mean, she has worked, she has moved from here to there. A PhD is the right move, the right career move, the next logical step for someone with my background and experience. It was logical, yes, but it was something entirely different. It was me deciding that I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to learn deeper. And yes, another thing I didn't say was I have been an adept learner. I love learning. I could be taking a long-term course and a mini course and be learning different things. So yeah. So it was pivoting into PhD was logical. But that wasn't what it wasn't too content with the system. What I want to say is that even though I wanted to do a PhD or a doctorate, I wasn't content, right, to work within systems. Till now that I'm talking to you, if I get a job to work within systems, I'll do it. But I know how to approach it now. I wanted to understand them. It's not just to work within systems and just be an everyday worker. I wanted to understand systems. I wanted to challenge systems. Then contribute to them in a way that had my name on it. Yeah, had my thinking on it. Then gives me the opportunity to contribute originally to general knowledge. That was what I wanted to do. And there's something profound about that decision when you sit with it. Because the PhD is not just an intellectual exercise at all. PhD is an identity project. And that's why it's difficult. Because you're forced to confront what you believe. That question you've come up with, you're forced to confront it. You're forced to confront why you believe it and how you construct knowledge and whether you can defend it under pressure. That kind of scrutiny changes you because it's supposed to, right? And somewhere in the middle of that process, when you're surrounded by literature reviews and ethics applications and survey recruitment challenges that, see, honestly, this process deserve their own episode. Because when you're surrounded by these processes, you start asking a different question. And it's not just about how do I contribute new knowledge, though. It's about how can I contribute to people? And this is taking me back to where I started. How do I help people? How do I contribute to real people? The ones who would never read a journal. The ones who will never read that research paper. but are living inside the very problems that I'm researching, the very systems that I want to challenge. How do I reach out to them? That question is where Rhoda 360 was born. Before now, even before I started the PhD, I've always wanted to start a podcast. But these diverse personalities, this analytical mind and the feeling mind and the knowledge and the background, the diverse skill set would not allow me, did not allow me to actually put myself together to know a direction. I only got the direction sometime last year. And that was when I started the podcast. So let me share about the birth of Rhoda 360. Now that you understand where all this is coming from. And I want to be honest about it, because not many platform founders, especially podcast or YouTube founders, will talk about it. Rhoda 360, unlike any other social media platform, did not start from a business plan. Guys, if you're watching this, I'm shooting this on the 3rd of June, 2026. Till now, I do not have a business plan for Rhoda 360. It did not start as a content strategy. And that's why you see that I share as it comes, especially as I feel really strongly about. I share about topics I feel really strongly about. When I bring people on the podcast to share, is what they believe, right? They are professionals in their own field, people that can really hold, the onions when it comes to speaking about whatever I'm inviting them to talk about. Rhoda 360 started from a wound, right? It started from a calling. It started from a wound. My childhood. A very painful childhood I had. Then it became a calling. The last guest I had on my show shared something about growth from pain. She called it post-traumatic growth. And I think that happened. I think Rhoda 360 is as a result of that. Wound plus calling. Those are the two things that connected me. Like, more like I would like to admit, right? The wound, then the calling to be this person, to be a person while being a professional, to have a heart, a working emotional heart, to have empathy while delivering, my own services. And I've walked through things, right? Real things that tried to take my identity from me, situations that made me question whether I belong, situations that made me question if there was God or why family existed, things that made me question whether I belonged in rooms or relationships or in countries or in professions, things that made me wonder whether the version of myself I'd worked so hard to build was even real, or whether it was worth it. So, or if everything was just another performance for external validation. I'm sure when many people see me promoting this podcast on social media, some people will go like, yeah, it's another performance for external validation. Yeah. And in those seasons, the ones that I will not post about, or I'm probably a post about later, I kept coming back to one thing: story. When I met people, I shared my story. When I met people that I thought that looked like mentors, I shared my story. When I met people who look up to me, I shared my story. Then, while sharing my story, other people's stories also saved me. Because when I will be in the middle of something that I will not have a language for, I will not have a title for, I'll find someone that had worked in a similar path. Either I'll find a book, I'll find a conversation, on YouTube, or a podcast episode down Spotify or YouTube, something that would connect me and tell me what I was going through and still give me that some suggestions to move through, then it will now help me to exhale. At least for that moment, I'm able to breathe. Oh, someone else knows this terrain. I know I'm not lost. Yes, that's how I felt. I'll be like, okay, yeah, so it's not just me, especially when I see all those stories about childhood traumas or career pivoting and the challenges of doing all this with a family or with a growing family with kids. I'll be like, okay, fine. I'm not lost. I'm just in between chapters. While it took me time to understand I was just in between chapters, I am grateful for the people that actually put their stories out there, or the people who decided to share their stories with me privately. And that is what I want Rhoda 360 to be to someone. That breath of I am not alone. That exhale into realization that there's someone somewhere that understands, that knows what you're going through. My name is Rhoda, and the 360 degrees in the name is intentional, because I refuse to believe that any one of us is reduced to some job title or our diagnosis or our trauma or our pain or our wounds or our villages where we come from or our country of origin or our relationship status, married or not, mother or not, able to sustain a relationship for 2 weeks or not. I believe that we are whole. We are whole. We are multidimensional. We are complex human beings, and I want a space that honors that complexity. A space that will talk about healing, a space that will provoke thinking, a space that will provoke living authentically, connecting, building these 5 pillars. One whole person. If you're listening or watching, thanks for being here. I'm just one of those episodes where I come to rant. Thanks. Now, I want to speak directly to someone who is standing at some crossroads right now, be it career crossroads or relationships, marriage, with children, with their parents, whatever the crossroads might be right now. Because I know what it feels like to look at a version of your future that makes complete sense to you alone. But when you look at other people, they look at you like you are absolutely being irrational. Whatever decision you're making is being irrational. And let's share something very personal to me, but I'll keep that story for another time. However, there's another one. I've gone through a lot. There was a time in a family meeting, and someone was talking just out of nowhere. I heard something like, and she has a license, and she has a pharmacy license. It's my license, right? I was the one that went to pharmacy school. If you are interested in going to pharmacy school, why didn't you? Whatever I was doing then did not make sense to them, but it made sense to me, and I believed I was going to win. I believed so much that I was going to win, and it worked. Today, those people cannot do such meetings or cannot call such meetings and talk about my pharmacy license. You know, people always talk, right? No matter how stupid it will sound, they will always talk. Family members, at least the ones that care about you, they may worry. Colleagues could, raise eyebrow and say, what is she doing? That internal voice that sounds terrifyingly like common sense, especially if you're if you've had a background where you've always been judged. You know, that internal voice that always say, is this really the right time for this? Wait first. Don't pivot yet. Don't move states yet. Don't go abroad yet. Don't better your life yet. Wait for the other person. Just wait. But if you're in that quagmire and you're listening to me, here's what I've learned about pivots. 1, it's not abandonment. You're not abandoning your career. You're not abandoning yourself. You're not abandoning what you love. Everything I have done is working for me right now. As I'm speaking to you in this room, everything is working together. There is nothing I've done. There is no education or no experience I've had that is not connecting to the support, the indirect or invisible support I have right now. My pharmacology knowledge, shapes how I think about health content. Probably by the time I begin to actually put out health content, which I would have started as far back as 2020, but I kept waiting until it was a perfect time. Some other day, we'll talk about perfection. Then my regulatory background shapes how, I think about accuracy and responsibility. I don't just do things anyhow anymore. I think about how I am responsible for whatever I'm putting out there or whatever I'm doing or whoever I am with or my kids. No, for instance, the number of children I allow into this world, how I am responsible for them. My current research is shaping me, in how I interview, how I talk to people, how I ask questions, how I construct arguments, how I interrogate my own thoughts and assumptions. Nothing was wasted. Nothing at all. Number 2, pivot rarely happens in one dramatic moment. You just don't wake up in the morning and it just happens. No. There was no single morning that I woke up and decided to become a podcaster. No, it was usually a series of small, quiet yeses. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I'm good at this. Yes, I have the skill. Yes, I'm no longer ashamed to be me. So it was a series of acceptances and yeses from myself to myself, right? So a yes to starting a podcast, yes to sharing something personal, yes to continuing even when the numbers were small, were very small, you know? Yes to facing the camera and building something that will last. So it didn't just start overnight. If you decide to start yours overnight, I hope you carefully think about it. It works for some, but for others, you have to, genuinely take out time to think about it, because it's going to be good for you to start something that you will not continue, you're not complete. Another one, the second or third one now, is that starting something else or something new might not sit comfortably. Yeah. Starting something else or something new, pivoting, will cost you something. It cost me comfort. It cost me the safety of a conventional professional narrative. Now, as a clinical pharmacist, okay, so that'd be nice that, okay, after my internship, I did 1 year of youth service, national youth service. That's what we do in Nigeria for 1 year. After we finished internship, I did that in a hospital. I had community pharmacy experience. I went back to the hospital. It would be nice to now build, a streamlined, one-directional career in clinical pharmacy. But no, I do not have that story. I am here to regulations, to management, brand management, to academia. So for me, I do not have the safety of sitting there and say, I am a clinical pharmacist or I am a regulatory pharmacist. In fact, right now, as you're watching this video, I am not registered as a pharmacist in any country. Yes, it will cost you that safety. There are moments of genuine uncertainty, where I'll say, where am I now? Or where will I work? What will I do next year? That's real. And I'm not going to dress it up and say I'm very comfortable. Or you'll be comfortable throughout. But here's what I know for sure. Right? Here's what I know for sure. What it gave me is not something I could have purchased with the security that I traded. Right? So it gave me expression. It gave me you that is watching me or listening to me. It gave me a sense of contributing to something that is entirely and authentically mine. That feeling, I have no scientific measurement or analysis for it, but I can tell you it's the most powerful thing I've ever felt professionally. People look at me and then they say, yeah, you're a podcaster. Yeah, would you come and be on this talk? Because we've seen your podcast, so this should be easy for you. I like that. It's something that you cannot put a salary figure on. In fact, you cannot put a salary figure on alignment. When you are aligned, you cannot measure it. We're still in the early chapters of Rhoda 360, and I want to say with excitement, not an apology. I am a doctoral researcher. I'm a pharmacist. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I am a woman who has lived across cultures and carried stories across borders. I am building a platform that reflects all of that. one honest conversation at a time. If you've been following me and you've been following the guests I've been bringing, you will see my guests are and will be people who are doing extraordinary things, however, often quietly. My solo episodes will be like places where I'll bring my whole self, like I've done today, including the parts that do not fit neatly into professional categories or professional narratives. And I promise you, you, my subscriber, you, my follower, my listener, my community, I promise you this, that I will never perform here. I will not give you the polished version of a story that deserves to be told whole. I will do the work. I will be prepared. So for any time I show up, I'll be prepared. While I'm nowhere makeup or do my hair, I'll be prepared to say the right things and put the right information out there. On this podcast, I'll bring rigor, I'll bring warmth, I'll bring honesty, I'll bring integrity, all in equal measures. I also bring truth, because some truths might hurt some people. However, I'll do it anyways. Because that's who I am. That's who this platform is. That's what this platform is. And this platform is finally fully mine, not sharing it with anyone. So that's the story. Pharmacist, brand manager, regulatory specialist. What else? A lot, clinical pharmacist. Now a doctoral researcher, a founder, a podcaster, a YouTuber, an Instagrammer, a TikToker, a Spotifyer, all in all. Honestly, I'm still becoming. But before I go, I want to ask you something really nice, something special. Because this show is a conversation, right? It's not a monologue, although it looks like one today. What part of yourself have you been living in the car park? Or inside, your shelves, or in your wardrobes, under your bed? What dimension of who you are have you been keeping waiting patiently, sometimes even impatiently, for you to finally give it space? What part of yourself are you hiding? Think about it. And if you feel moved, drop it in the comment sections or send me a DM on Instagram. I read every single one, right? And I'll respond as soon as I'm able to. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who is mid-pivoting, or is pivoting right now, or is thinking about it, or should be leaving one role or one job to another. Someone who needs to hear that the journey makes sense. It comes with its challenges, and it's going to be okay even when it doesn't look like it yet. So subscribe and follow if you haven't already. Turn on your post notifications so that you would know when I post weekly. Because next week, we are going somewhere even more honest and more truthful. We're talking about PhDs, whether they are worth it, what nobody tells you before you start, and what it actually costs, especially in New Zealand. My name is Rhoda, and this is Rhoda 360. I'll see you next week. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye.